Everyone knows how Buddha found enlightenment. The story they tell: he sat under a tree, he got enlightened, he became the Buddha. What nobody talks about is the 6 years before that. 6 years of suffering, of pain, of almost dying. 6 years that almost broke him. And the thing that almost broke him? A single question. Here's the context. Before Buddha became the Buddha, he was a prince named Siddhartha Gautama. He grew up in a palace. He was protected from all suffering. He had every luxury money could buy. He married, he had a son, he lived the perfect life. Until one day, he escaped the palace 4 times. He saw 4 things: an old man, a sick man, a dead body, and a wandering monk. These 4 sights destroyed his worldview completely. He realized everything he had was temporary. Everyone he loved would suffer. Eventually, everyone dies. He left his wife. He left his son. He left the palace. He went into the forest to become a monk. Now here's what the inspirational quotes don't tell you. The first thing Siddhartha did after leaving the palace was try to find enlightenment through suffering. He became an extreme ascetic. He stopped eating almost entirely. He lived on 1 grain of rice per day. He sat in the sun until he blistered. He sat in the cold until he froze. He walked on thorns until his feet bled. He held his breath until he nearly passed out. He meditated for days without sleeping. He did this for 6 years. 6 years of this. His body became skeletal. His skin hung off his bones. He was so weak he couldn't walk. And he achieved nothing. No enlightenment. No peace. Just pain. Here's the moment everything changed. Siddhartha was sitting by a river, completely broken. He'd failed at every path he'd tried. He was moments away from giving up entirely. And a thought struck him: what if the problem isn't that I'm not suffering enough? What if the problem is that I've been asking the wrong question all along? He realized, every teacher he'd followed, every path he'd tried, they all asked the same question. How do I escape suffering? But that question assumes suffering is the problem. What if suffering isn't the problem? What if running from suffering is the problem? What if the entire premise of find enlightenment by escaping pain was the trap? This is where Buddha stopped being a seeker and started being a student. He stopped running. He stopped punishing himself. He stopped trying to escape anything. He sat under a tree not to suffer, not to run, but to actually look. He looked at his own mind, at his own experience, at what was actually happening versus what he was afraid would happen. And something strange happened. The less he fought his suffering, the less it controlled him. The less he tried to escape, the more space he found inside himself. The less he asked, how do I stop this, the more he saw what was actually there. He stopped trying to solve a problem. And in that stopping, the problem dissolved. He became the Buddha. Here's what most people miss: Buddha didn't find enlightenment. He stopped running from the truth. Enlightenment isn't a reward for suffering enough or meditating enough or being good enough. It's what happens when you stop lying to yourself. It's what happens when you stop trying to escape what's real. It's what happens when you ask a different question. The old question: how do I escape suffering? The new question: what am I actually afraid of? The old question: how do I find peace? The new question: what makes me think I don't have it already? The old question: how do I become worthy? The new question: worthy of what? According to who? Buddha's whole teaching can be summarized this way: the thing you're running from is the thing that's trying to show you the way home. Now I want to give you the actual question. Not how do I find enlightenment? That's the old question. Not how do I escape suffering? That's the trap. The question Buddha finally asked, the question that changed everything: what am I believing about this situation that isn't true? What are you believing about your current struggle that isn't true? That you need to escape it to be happy? That you need to fix it to be at peace? That you need to solve it to move on? What if none of that is true? What if the suffering isn't the problem and neither is the running? What if the only problem is the lie you keep telling yourself about both? That's the question. Sit with it. See what comes up. 6 years of suffering. One question. One moment of clarity. The rest is history. But here's the part they don't tell you. That moment of clarity didn't come because Siddhartha was special. It came because he was finally honest enough to question the premise he'd been operating on. He stopped asking, how do I escape suffering? And started asking, why do I think suffering is the problem? The shift that changed everything wasn't effort. It was curiosity. The Buddha didn't become enlightened by pushing harder. He became enlightened by looking differently. That's the teaching behind every teaching. That's the question behind every answer.